Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are continuing Krankendau versus Isigyro, and I am joined by Neblime, the man who saw that first game on Impetus, where there was that gigundous around by none other than our resident ZERG here, Krankendau. Isigyro playing Terran, and of course a fairly new player at this time. We did get confirmation, Neblime, I gotta say, that apparently these were some of Isigyro's first games, as opposed to, him getting tilted playing ZERG and trying to switch to Terran or something. We speculated as to which one it was. It looks like he's very new at the time of these being played, so, it makes a lot more sense when you think about it like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty strong play, honestly, if he just started. That called me impressed. But man, how long ago did we cast that one? It was just like 3 seconds ago, right? Is that how these are going to be uploaded?
No, this first one's already been up for many days.
Okay, never mind. I thought it was going to be the meme of like, it's one video.
No.
It feels like a week has passed. But yes. I guess a week has actually passed.
It sure has. So we are going to jump into Derelict 2, and we have one more game after this for a total of 3. I originally thought we had 4, but I was confusing it with a different set. So yes, indeed, that is 3. We've got Isigyro here in the bottom left.
The Mason!
Yes, indeed. The Cyan Terran in the bottom left. And, of course, Krankendau rocking the maroon color as per usual in the top right. And so far, the colors are correct.
All right, at least it's red and blue this time. Not whatever hellish colors we had last time. How long you been playing? The truth will come out.
The truth will come out.
Just today, he says. Oh.
There you go. Apparently this is his 7th match. Can you believe it? Something that Krankendau likes to do, by the way, is he likes to shift tab to make the neutral units become yellow. That's pretty interesting.
It's very important because you want to have the red and the honestly, brain isn't working. The green for your own units on the minimap. I think that's very important. These colors aren't that similar, but they just don't pop out as much. So honestly, if you're trying to win, I think you should always be doing that.
There you go. There you go. I feel like there's definitely an element of me where I would never want to do that because I really like the epic colors. Like, even though I'm not, like, it's weird to make references to Starcraft 2 because I didn't play it that much. And even when I did, I didn't have a very rosy view of it. But I'm the kind of guy who would never play on low settings. You know what I'm saying?
I did that all the time. I played many a game on the lowest settings.
Yeah, I find it to be just at some point, it just looks too ugly to tolerate.
Look, man, if you want to win, there are sacrifices that must be made.
Indeed. Well, Isigyro going for a Fulcrum opener, and there will not be any sacrifices from Krankendau because he is going his traditional pool into Larvosk. It seems to have superseded the Larvosk into pool, so that's kind of interesting. He's doing a little bit of harassment in the mineral line for our Terran player, but not really going to be too consequential. The Fulcrum will finish up nice and tidy, and we'll see what Isigyro's follow-up is going to be.
Surely a Vulture and then a Quarry, right? Must be what he's angling for here. Well, he's queuing up the workers. I'm waiting to see what he makes. Another Mason gets queued. No, there you go. It's a Vulture.
Yes,
and I'm pretty sure he's going for the Quarry.
Yeah. He has got the Vespene for the Quarry, so that would make the most sense. Now, there has been some discussion. In between the previous cast and this one, we had Shopkeeper Dog come out with the graphs and stuff interesting, talking about the ideas about how Quarry super early seems like it's actually a bit of a waste because you don't start really making up the difference until you hit your second base anyway, is like the thought process, because right now Isigyro almost has enough workers to fully saturate with perfect saturation all of his minerals, right? So if he had put the resources from a quarry into a treasury instead and just continuously pumped masons out of the one ministry, he would actually end up having like a faster expansion timing for more Vespene income, but about equivalent mineral income. So if you're going for something really tempo-oriented, it seems like that is actually going to be a good play to do. But, I don't know how true that is. That's just like kind of number math, like it's on paper math, as opposed to, stuff that's actually been demonstrated just yet. But I'm really sad he can't make it to the tournament this weekend because I feel like Dog would have a lot of cool plays for us. So, I don't know, it's just a little something to start thinking about if you ever end up deciding to play Terran again.
He seems... Oh, my gosh.
No.
Wasn't I saying in the last cast, if you know what you're doing, it's not that hard to stop Vulture's early game, and well, there you go. Wasn't even on his ramp. Definitely Shopkeeper Dog is looking like a strong player, so I'm also sad we're not going to see him. Excuses. He's typing. He's Shambler.
He's typing. It's smiley face.
Speaking of Shambler, there is draw left in Isigyro's base.
That's a good segue.
Again.
Yeah,
he likes a pretty important scout. If you see there's like
two
Fulcrum, I think you immediately get the second Circuit here. It would be the play.
Oh, the Avaleth is also coming around, having degened that K-Grunt into the spot. Do you even call this degen anymore? I feel like this is just meta. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, well, why don't we call it the Jack build? Because we've got to give Jack credit for like
the Jack maneuver. Yeah.
Yeah, the
We were
Japanese
talking
are
about this in a YouTube comment way back. We were like asking about like naming like the It Depends Watchdog Scout and the stuff like that. And I like how he tried to give you credit for that, but you keep telling me that
No, I
it was
did
him.
not invent that, dude. I saw it, and like I said, my mind was
Yeah.
blown. Like,
Yeah.
I realized I've been playing wrong the whole time. Can he
That's-
rescue the Drolef? No. he's
Ooh,
been
that's a
left
good
behind.
idea. That's a good idea.
He totally should have. If he's just gonna overleft scout anyway, he should have done that. But
Dude,
see,
imagine
later.
if Isigyro saw that and then sees the Drolethon burrow and hears the sound of it loading in. It's like, what? Like, what just happened to me, dude?
Was this you all along? We might lose this overleft. Ooh.
I think so, yeah. I don't think it's getting out there. Cyclops reigning supreme. You know, it's just another Terran game where you build nothing but Cyclops, but I repeat myself.
He did not get a second Circuit here. I think Crank is playing pretty fast and loose right now. There's another star pad coming up as well. Another star pad, I say, just one star pad, but still. This is all pretty intimidating. Although he's not really using the second Fulcrum. Seems to have like saved the money and started the treasury instead. So maybe in reality he's doing alright. But I don't know, imagine these Cyclops are across the map right now. It looks a little bit intimidating.
Yeah, I think honestly with the low number of military units, it's off the back of me casting a series with Jujic about Hamster versus Krankendau and how interesting that, because it's the same matchup and it's a little bit more recent of games, I believe. And Krankendau likes to play a little bit on the greedy side unless contested. And I mean, I kind of agree with you that at this point you would think he would put down a little bit more military focus, but maybe he's just flirting with that edge because he comes in with the Ovolith. Remember, you can click on structures to detect them. If they're detected, you can see what they're producing. And so he can see that, oh, maybe it's Goliaths coming, or maybe he missed a macro cycle and wasn't producing anything at all, in which case, you know, you probably don't worry too much about that. But Isigyro is going to throw down the Quarry at the natural, and he's a little bit behind in workers, but he can catch back up. It's just... Well, that's going to be very different when Krankendau takes the third base, which looks pretty soon. He does have the Zorkas out already.
Here comes the Shambler. No, wait, he's just burrowing in a new spot.
No.
Nah, he's spotted, though.
Yeah, it's not going to work out. Isigyro is going to defeat the Shambler. You heard it here first. Isigyro, a player who's not even in the community, has murdered the Shambler. The Shambler is dead because of this man, so...
Yeah, I was going to say about Crank's greed, right? Yeah, it's like ZERG is always going to be pulling ahead if Terran can't put any pressure, right? And I feel like if you're going to make all the Cyclops to start with, I mean, God help you, terrible idea, but if you do that, you should probably get out on the map because they're fast enough and they can kite Zephs pretty well because they'll just destroy them.
That's right.
So I feel like he should have at least come and poked, right? As is, Crank is sort of playing a little bit safe here, especially getting the Zorkas so fast, getting all these Lakizalis. So he's getting the work account for 2 bases pretty good, but he doesn't have the production just yet. I think he's just going to run out and take a third base, though. I think if you go for the gas into the Zorkas, you do want to just grab that third pretty much right away. So probably going to see that. And definitely, Isigyro's army here is not ready to take on these Lakizalis backed up by the Soyuz.
Well, check out the fact that he's full queued his quarries and ministries out the wazoo, dude. He's got so many masons in those queues and so little resources that, you know, he was building a scrapyard, which he's now not using on that Fulcrum, going for Goliaths again instead. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think it's great to have military queues. Worker queues, sure, a couple of them won't hurt you too bad, but I feel like we are noticing that maybe Isigyro likes to do that a little bit more than he likes to play the difference and just sort of like be on top of it. So that feels like maybe it's reducing his army size, and that is a little bit scary. If you can't contest the Zerg, well, look at what Krankendau's doing. Double expand. Sure, there's a Wraith sort of looking around for a scout. And yes, another Ovolith comes in to see another Fulcrum being added, but it went deep enough to know that there's not really that much military behind this.
It's usually he uses the Wraith to scout, but there is sort of a logic to it, because if Lakizalis showed up at his base and his NC was off scouting, it would not be a good time.
That's right.
He's going to back up there. Well,
I'm not sure if he actually got a look at the military. That's the concerning part, and Krankendau is now moving across the map.
Well, if he spreads out a bit in this defensive position, he can probably hold. I don't know. There's no anchors, is there?
Yeah, no mines either. There is the Vulture with the 2 mines on it, so it feels like...
I don't know, man. I wouldn't go in there if I was ZERG. I'll say that much.
Yes, yeah.
Probably going to get destroyed.
If the Ovolith moves a little bit closer to actually see what's going on and see the fact that there's no mines, well, we hear a couple of them being deployed now, so maybe that'll be a little bit different, but... Yeah, there was a window there that maybe he could have done something, but it would have been trading down the military, which, you know, is okay for ZERG. It's probably a little bit better for ZERG, but worker count actually going up for Isigyro. He just can't actually expand for a little bit here.
Well, you got to remember that Crank's invested a lot of gas into Lakizalis, right? So it's not really like the standard situation where you're throwing away like trash units constantly. You actually don't want to get your army reset with those. And, you know, Isigyro isn't really making anything special. He's upping the focal count. So an army reset might even favor Terran a little bit, because his army's actually just a bit bigger now, and Crank is going to run away. And he's getting those workers up, but the superior worker count still for Isigyro. He just needs that third base, which he is building. He's doing pretty well on the macro front. The queuing paid off, man. It's better to queue them than not make them.
Yeah, fair. A good amount of them are idle, and it feels like he's got a little bit oversaturated on the natural, a little bit undersaturated on the main, although maybe that's not correct. It's a little bit like that, but not too bad. And of course, he can transfer over to the third. I think as player skill does increase, we will see people either falling off on the worker count, especially after a certain amount of timing. People will actually get that sort of timing down. You see that optimization happening a little bit more often, and I think they'll also realize when it's the right time to transfer. But speaking of, we're going to see a bit of a drop here in the main for
only 3 though. Did not fully load, and look at that. There's already a Sprafe and a Zerg. He looks very prepared for this. This is probably not going to do very much. He does unload far away from the Sprafe at least, but the Cyclops going to have a pretty hard time against the Zerg. The worst that could happen is if he doesn't notice and a bunch of workers get splashed. But, well, let's see.
They are going to get a hit on the way out there, which is okay. It's okay damage. He's killed 3 workers, and he's stopped some mining time. So, yeah, not as much damage as you wanted, but doing okay.
Yeah, it's not great for 3 Cyclops, I will say. Look, he could have got a lot more workers if he targeted the draw lifts over on the gas there, but as it stands, just a little distraction, I guess, neither here nor there.
Yeah, this 3 o'clock base being taken for Krankendau has a huge amount of gas, and his tier 2 is now done. Going for the Hydrith Den, I think we're going to see Tethzoricores to try to soak up a lot of that damage early on.
It's a tough option, because he has a huge gas bank here. I mean, if you start making Kaphralos, maybe. Oh, what do we got?
Another Ovaleth just scouting around. Look at that, seeing an anvil being made. I wonder what that means. Couple of mech units out here for Isigyro. Not very technical on the army, and not very big on the mass of chaff either. So this feels like an army that could easily be overwhelmed by tier 2 Zerg. We'll see if Krankendau wants to reveal that he's at that level or not, because Isigyro still is none the wiser.
I think Isigyro perhaps just doesn't know what the anvil does, because he doesn't have tier 2 nor a Covenant, so there's no way of launching that. Unless it's just like, the last resort defense, which I don't think is what he's thinking here.
That's interesting. Yeah, he's got no Atlas, and he's got no Eidolon to actually paint it. So what's he going to do with that? That's a thought I never even thought. I don't think I've ever seen a player build an anvil without the means to launch the Morningstar. That's interesting. Maybe it was even a misclick. You never know. It could have been trying to make a quarry and didn't realize.
I was just thinking that, if he doesn't know the hotkeys yet, he's clicking on the command card, maybe. But that would be a bit of a stretch. I assume it was deliberate, but I don't know what he's thinking here. So much gas in the bank for Crank. He could almost go for tier 3, dude. This is crazy.
Yes, I know. He's actually pretty close to it. And this is without capping geysers. He's capping the one in his main, and that's it. The one on the third base as well. So other than that, he's actually not capping at all. It's pretty interesting. Gonna do it,
dude. He's only making a few Lyrilisks. I think this is the plan.
Atlas now coming down for Isigyro, so he'll catch up to tier 2 just at the right time as Krankendau thinks about tier 3. But 7 Vilgoricores get made. Yeah. And now he's going for the Oxel Cesians as well. So yeah, definitely a big gas expenditure. He just realized he had all that. Would have been
a huge play, honestly, if he did. But look at this. Look, his list caught alone. He needs to be very careful to lose those. That's really his only defensive force here. I mean, there's a few tier units of various kinds, but not really enough of an army to stand up to this. And this is a huge amount of stuff for Isigyro here. That Trojan just hanging out with the army, though.
Yeah, Krankendau maybe getting lost in the macro sauce a little bit, doing all this work to tech up and explore the tree and figure out what he wants to make. But he hasn't actually made a 5th base yet. And, obviously with Isigyro being on a 3rd, going towards a 4th with that ministry, probably destined for the 6 o'clock location.
Ooh, we got the Siege Phalanx drop. And look at that.
Okay. Hey, he's planning to do it right above the 3rd. Yeah, you saw the camera location. He's thinking about that ledge. No air units to respond to this with any sort of swiftness. Now a Kaphralos as well for Krankendau, so his main is purely converted into advanced unit production. And he's just going for Lyrilisks.
He could make Calculus immediately because he has the Kaphralos and the Oxel Cesians. So he has options, but they're not built yet. That Sprafe has longer range than you think, my friend. You got to watch out for that. Only single Drolev's getting hit so far somehow. And 2 there. Boy. Honestly, not as many kills as I would have expected. Although that's a nice shot there.
Yeah, there we go. Well, he scoops it up and he's trying to see if he can evacuate, but there's a lot of Zerg in this area. You better watch out. No units waypointed over there just yet. Instead, Krankendau thinking he'll just move through the map.
You gotta respect the Lyrilis, right? I feel like they could have actually run up there and caught that. But hey,
by the way, Krankendau has the ability. Nobody's ever done this on Derelict. There is the ability to throw a Matrolith into the middle of the map and infest that ministry, so I'm just saying.
Yeah, there is. He's got a lot of minerals, a lot of gas, rather. It was Isigyro with a lot of minerals.
Yes,
I mean, what would you make? What's the ideal Terran unit here? I guess Phalanxes of your own would be pretty handy.
Yes. Yeah, phalanxes, eidolons. I mean, anything that will kind of help you snipe stuff without
You
needing
don't
to
want
rely on
eidolons
Death
because
Lords.
they're too gas heavy, and ZERG always thinking about gas. That
Oh
said,
boy.
again, Crank has this
Speaking
huge
of-
gas bank.
Yeah. Well, here's the big again. Us giants
Oh
around.
my god!
So much here for Krankendau. Isigyro is just having his forces melted and collapsed upon. Not really that much splash damage, right? He only had a couple of phalanxes. One of them not even sieged. That looks like it might just be it. Krankendau going to power on through here.
Instant devastation. The Vilgoricles and the Zoryus a great combination. Just getting in there so quickly. And look at that, your army's just gone. GG. Asking for the re.
There it is. You know how it is. You know how it is. Isigyro always looking for another game. But here we go. That's going to be his 7th game in the bag. You know what? Like you said, pretty reasonable macro. But Krankendau finding a way to just produce enough units. And you know what? He was trying a couple of things there. But as we get into our last match here on Axiom, I don't know. If Isigyro doesn't up the pressure, that's something that I remember thinking about very distinctly, Neblime, is that, you know, back in Acropolis number 5, or Ascension number 5, way back last year, I kept thinking, like, you know, people keep saying that ZERG are really, you know, hard to bust, hard to turtle on, you know, hard to defeat on turtle and stuff, but it felt like they would never really pressure. And since then, we've seen a huge amount of revolution in that respect. And I feel like Isigyro needs to, you know, start to develop a sense for how powerful he can be in the early game, because Terran has some powerful units. It's just, you got to make sure you're across the map with all those Cyclops or those Vultures or what have you, as opposed to being still stuck in your base. You know, you can't necessarily turtle versus a ZERG. Versus Protoss, I understand the temptation, and it can work. But versus ZERG, I feel like you got to be a lot more proactive. What do you think?
Well, why do you think I started opening 2 Stockade immediately versus ZERG, and I was getting it on like 8 and 10 supply? Yeah, that's always the dynamic. You gotta stop that lava mechanic from getting out of control. You know, it's very thematic, I suppose. The ZERG is like this growing thing that you have to keep pruning it, you know?
Yes. Yes, that's right. Well, meanwhile, I will say that I do hope that Isigyro, I just wanted to point this out as we get ready to get into our match here. I hope Isigyro somehow stumbles upon these videos and is like, God damn, I could do so much. Well, he is going to be in the top right. What is this? Is this Palatinate blue again, or electric blue? Electric blue. Yeah, I got it. And he's in the top right. It's cranking down the bottom left, maroon ZERG as usual. I never guess the right blue when it's this color, because it could have also been like glacial or something. So just saying.
I
want to be. Yeah, listen. I need to be have my back padded for that one. I'm just going to put that out there.
I'm not going to be the one to do it.
That's all right.
I'll roast you when you get it wrong, but if you get it right,
Yes.
I'm not giving you anything.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well. That's for that reason. I'm just going to need to have Roller Skates as co-caster. He'll only do the color guessing. He'll get it right, and then he'll disconnect from Discord. And I'll just carry on soloing. I will say, though, you know, Isigyro, he's tried a couple of the more macro-oriented plays so far. He gets the army, you know, pretty reasonable. On it, like, if he was, for example, still around in the community, he would be a perfect, like, undercard Terran player to look at, because you can see he can macro. He plays the game enough to understand how to, you know, put down the structures and stuff. He's going to go for that fulcrum first, and he knows to go for quarries and all this other stuff. He's probably watched the casts and kind of figured things out based on that, and intuited that maybe that's what he wants to do as a Terran player. But, you know, Krankendau is a little bit of a cut above in general. He's like an above average player, so
yeah,
it makes sense that he would have some struggles.
How are you going to fight the inventor of the Lavos, right? He obviously knows what to do with the units. And look, like we said, like the Vilgoricles there, obviously a good choice. I do have questions about the macro, right? Because like we saw, he was almost at 2,000 gas for a while. So there's some stuff that's going on there. But in general, I agree. He's having the better of it. Isigyro, like you just said, did have a very threatening army for a period in the game, but did not understand that ZERG is just getting ahead if you're not doing anything. And also, a really critical error there was how late Tier 2 was. If he had a similar size army with Tier 2 stuff, maybe it can stand up to the ZERG army. As it was just obsolete units. Oh, is he going to get the kill? He ain't getting the kill, man. He's getting killed if he's not careful.
Whoa. 1 health. 1 health. 1 hit. Get him. Oh, he turns back around. That was a fake out. And now, Isigyro, what will you type now, sir?
Honestly, that was a bit of a miss micro Isigyro. If he'd attacked it with both, I think he would have won the fight. But, he burrows it too. Oh, he's dead.
I love the appreciation for the Shambler we have here, you know? That's the most likable the Shambler will ever be. Getting
it's
destroyed
one of those,
by a vulture.
Very strange things you do where, like, you're like, oh, it's going to die anyway. Yes, I will distract my opponent for 1 second. Totally worth it.
Yeah, you know, it is actually. And delays the vulture a little bit. Now the Vulture move out happening almost at the same time. And look at this, a very fast Palladium. This is Quarry into Palladium. What is he planning on here?
I think it must be Madrigals, right? What's a single Phalanx going to do? It's just going to get surrounded by Quasis and die. Although then again, if it stays in tank mode, that's going to be a pretty long fight.
Yeah, it's going to be real difficult to fight against, I feel like. If it's
Still, though, imagine if there's like 4 Zephyr cores, that'd probably do it.
Yes, probably.
Phalanx very much a support unit, you know, it needs help. Even if it's tanking in the front line, it needs something else behind it, usually.
Like another Phalanx, just pure Phalanx comp, IMO.
It was casted, wasn't it? That game where Mystery Meat had like 8 Phalanxes and a bunch of Shamans and I just couldn't kill them and died.
Yeah, I think so. It was like way back, yeah. Because they have so much armor in tank mode, you know.
That's right.
It lives up to the name, so to speak.
Yeah, I guess so.
Which is kind of funny because I think the Matador Cinder mode is like the alternative. The mobile mode is still called tank mode, even though Cinder gets the armor, so Cinder is also the tank. I don't know. I'll have to workshop that. We do have Krankendau trying to drop the Kagrin over here, Jack style, of course. Definitely an adopter of that particular thing. Nice mine sort of ring over here for Isigyro, and he's kind of posturing with the Vultures. I think that might have been a patrol move, actually, and it is a fast Phalanx, but sort of like what you were saying, Neblime, this is deployed in such a fashion to maybe just scare off early ground attacks. It's not moving across the map, so I don't know if I like it.
Imagine Crank was just like, oh, I'm going to drop 6 Quasis and try and kill some workers. If he just flies past his C stat, he's like, oh, okay, 3 Phalanx just drops on top of it, 100% dead. 100% dead. And you honestly probably just directly lose the game because you have another Phalanx coming out and you'll have your Masons running around with Quas trying to hit them. So this is like a super vulnerable style to play. If Quasi's trying to come on the ground, they're going to regret it. But ZERG has many options. You have to be robust in the early game.
That's right. And you know what? Since the Ovaleth is dispatched, I don't think Isigyro will speculate that there's going to be a drop, but, you know, there's 2 deployed Phalanxes over here, and there is a Goliath coming out to try to zone that Ovaleth away, but Krankendau actually hasn't paid attention yet. He's thinking about making some other structure, it looks like. Has another Kagrant here. He's waypointing more units around. The hatch for the Natural is nearly finished as the Treasury is about to pop, and Krankendau will now take a look at the Ovaleth because it's being attacked by a Goliath.
Yeah, I mean, has Isigyro even been exposed to the 6 Quasi drop at this point? I doubt it.
Probably not.
He doesn't seem to have any fear of it, that's for sure. The thing is, it's very meta right now to just stick with the Quas-only units, and of course, Krankendau and others do love these Sikizalis, but that aside, the Madrigals would be, like, really effective, and in fact, I think Crank was even complaining about them, actually. So, you know, you get, like, 5 or 6 Madrigals in one spot. Quasis are not really going to do anything there. Because the Hydrith is just not a popular building right now.
Right, and the Hydrith would be a good choice against it. I guess you could probably overwhelm them with Zorius as well, but thinking about the idea that you were saying where you just, especially when we saw the early Palladium, and I was posing the question, what's he going to do with this? And you said it's got to be Madrigals. If it had been, and he keeps those Vultures alive, I kind of think that's pretty good. I mean, the Circuit will zone a lot of that away, but if you can hit really, really fast in a surprising manner, I mean, you can at least set up a lockup and, go for like 2 Madrigals and then go for like 1 Phalanx to kill the static defense and force these ZERG units out. Now, we did have a little bit of a kerfluffle here. Isigyro's Vultures got walked up on, and he was busy at home trying to fix his Fulcrum that lifted off away from the Palladium. So,
dude, this is just like base Brood War. You look away, it's like, wait a minute, how come my Vultures got blown up by their own mine?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is the kind of fate that I think Isigyro really wanted to avoid. You see this 3rd base coming down at 6 minutes. I mean, that's really, really good timing for Crank.
Yeah, and what aggression can you put on with your Phalanxes, right? They don't want to leave the base. They're going to be scared.
Yes. Yeah, especially when you lose out on any map control you may have had, even though if it was just sort of phantom map control with those 2 Vultures. Now this Ovaleth might get sniped out before it can get away from the Goliaths. They need to do 2 more salvos. Yeah, didn't do it. 1 HP. Classic move. Well, there's 1 Goliath popping out over here, but yeah, he didn't want to just reveal that he's got the star pad. He didn't want to reveal.
Got away. He almost got away.
Almost. He didn't want to reveal that he had the the Anseal on the way either. You kind of want to leave the options open for, okay, you see the star pad, but am I making a Trojan? Now we know that's not the case, so a little bit awkward there for Isigyro, but let's see. I mean, Krankendau's army is much smaller in this game than it was in the last, so.
Yeah, I wonder, though, if Isigyro is going to make the same mistake. I feel like just looking at his moving, there's the Treasury, too. I was going to say, it looks like he just wants to take a 3rd, which, again, I think is a mistake. You have to be pressuring ZERG. You can't just have an agreement with ZERG that you're both just going to take whatever bases you want, because ZERG will always be ahead. And I think that's just exactly what we're going to see happen here again. Now, if he has, like, a whole bunch of Phalanxes, he might be able to have a good defensive position and get to Tier 2 and stuff. But at some point, he has to mess with Crank.
Yeah, because Krankendau is good enough at the baseline game to be able to get himself into a position where he's got more bases than you, more tech than you, and of course more units than you. So the worker count has been admirably kept up in this game and in the last game by Isigyro. Obviously, in the last one, he even superseded his opponent and might do so again as this treasury lands at the third base. Obviously, in the last game, we also saw him make that anvil puzzlingly with no usage. We'll see if he does the same thing again.
Yeah. Well, he didn't load it, did he? That would have been, the ZERG army runs in, boom, there you go. He's ahead.
That's
suddenly.
right. Yeah, that's right. So, why is all these flashings? And yes, I did see he's got to reset that. Okay, now here we go. Not going to go for any add-on just yet. You might be saving the Vespene for that Atlas, as we sort of mentioned. But the Iris already coming up online, and this is the danger by giving a 6-minute base to Krankendau for his third. You're going to get a very heavy amount of Vespene. And sure, you can saturate yours now on the Terran side, but like you said, you'll be behind if you just try to play the macro game sort of handshake with the ZERG players. Unless you're really cutting a lot of corners, in which case, well, they might decide to interact with you and you'll blow up. So
yeah, then the tables will table and you'll be the one getting pressured.
That's right.
I mean, again, he has a pretty good defensive position here, but it's like, okay, then what? Take the concept of like, you could just spend the whole game making cannons and you won't die very soon, but then what? That's kind of what's going on here. Yeah, he's got a good defensive position. The tier 2 is a lot faster this time. I like it a lot more. Yep. So we'll have to see what he has in store here, but I feel like Isigyro has to be making some kind of move. He has to have some kind of plan here to make this work, because by default, ZERG is just winning here.
Yes, and his a lot of what the mech units that would kind of peel for the phalanxes are kind of in the choke of the natural and not really defending the third at all. So as Krankendau kind of scouts around here, I don't know.
Okay, he gets killed. I was wondering if it was going to like run in and splash damage the Masons would have been a good play.
Yeah, that would have been pretty good. Now these vultures are back against the wall. So that's no good for them. Just utter devastation. You can't fly off the cliff. This isn't like a 3D game or anything. So
imagine that they just do like a cool jump. That'd be sick.
Yeah, they take like 10 damage from fall damage.
Yeah, that's I wish that was a feature now. Yeah, add a new unit, add Reapers, but they don't have jetpacks. They're just brave and they just jump off.
they just break their legs and start moving slower when they finish the jump.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I mean, the jump part is definitely going to be there for the Escozi, but you'll need another unit on the other side.
Ooh.
So there you go.
No, we've already seen. Hamster already invented Reapers. You just need a pylon.
Yes, you need a pylon and Legionnaires.
And an envoy.
You know what? The hidden tech there is actually the Kabbalist, because you don't even need the Kabbalist in the envoy. You just unload the pylon, and suddenly you're warping your Kabbalists in there. So nobody's done that yet, but it is the successor to the hamster jetpack.
Well, I want to say the best thing would be like you don't even make an envoy. Your opponent just happens to put something near the cliff, and then you're like, aha, that's how we're going to get in, boys.
Yes,
exactly. What you could do, right, is have one Legionnaire hit the Kabbalist, teleport the Kabbalist in, and then quickly the other Legionnaires attack. That could work, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to overcome cliff. They're just none of them are worth the effort.
That's right. Yes, unless it's a very specific situation. Okay.
There's been a lot of talk about cataphracts recently.
Yes.
Are they going to make an appearance here? They're very devastating. Ramses could be an option just because last game ZERG just had so much stuff. If you put enough splash in one spot, maybe you can fend them off. The cataphract are more like all-round unit. They tank and they do a lot of damage, but the Ramses obviously having the splash have that element of like if you concentrate in one spot, you can be invincible. What is going on at this natural, by the way? I just looked at it. There's a bit of like an economic downturn in natural zone. Meanwhile, booming over at the third. 49 workers at the third.
I see.
And
yes.
18
a lot of them were idle.
Natural.
He just sent in even more. So there's 53 workers there now. So yes, indeed. Well, the other thing to point out here is Krankendau was once again double expanded. He's capped the gas preemptively for the 9 o'clock position, and he's pushing a little bit further forward here, maybe going to go ahead and move. Now, I love this ministry position at the third base because it is going to block any moves there. There's already 2 complete ministries, one of which is floating over to 12 o'clock. Isigyro trying to just build a ridiculous number of expansions, but I don't know if it's really going to work out for him. He's keeping his money low-ish, on par with his opponent, but I feel like we're just
about to end, dude. Look how much stuff Crank has.
That's right.
He's about to A-move him, I think. Yeah. Because he just has such an overwhelming army, and I just looked around at like what Isigyro has, and like he really doesn't have much. He's got
he's
like
also super
lives.
split. He's trying to cover 12 o'clock
Yeah.
and the 3rd. He's got this Ministry on the... Again, it will be a great walling position, but, you know, Krankendau poking his head around over here, getting thrown grenades at by the Vultures. But
no, look at that army, dude. How do you
Yeah.
stop that? There's a bunch of phalanx over here, but he needs everything. The Cataphract definitely needs to get there. They'll be helpful.
Oh, no, big stun on those Lakizilisks, though, at the 3rd, so that might actually end up helping Isigyro out, extend play. But yeah, there's going to be a war on 2 fronts here very shortly. Those Vultures at the 4th base have already been dealt with. I think this mech stack is pretty good there, but look at the 3rd base. It's starting to fall.
Yeah, and you know it's bad when ZERG is enough to break you in 2 locations, essentially. Oh, look at that, the stun. He somehow completes the burrow. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely devastated. Luckily, though, the natural will be saturated now. He does hold on. That defies my expectations. I thought he would just get absolutely crushed here, but he's still in the game. He just had to retreat the 3rd. Although, Crank is still attacking. Oh, he's going to come in from the other ramp now as well. Still making a 2-pronged attack. There's Eclipses are about to do too much damage.
Oh, the mines, though. The mines. He was fighting on top of the mines. A classic Terran blunder. He at least has detection to deal with those Lakizilisks. Only one of them even burrowed at this point.
Hey,
Cataphract getting carried all the way back. Does have a couple more. I don't know. This doesn't look like it's going to be enough. I mean, I feel like his 12 o'clock position is going to get annihilated as soon as Krankendau refocuses his efforts. Instead, he's sort of panning around looking at the other parts of the Terran base. But yeah, at this point, I think he's just going to go ahead and run over the 12 o'clock position. And there's not really any units to sort of try to defend that.
Well, he's close to holding. I mean, it's like 1 Zor used per Terran unit, so it's
no.
sort of overwhelming.
The Railroad cars.
If he built more Sentinels, man, if he just spammed like 8 Sentinels at each base, he definitely could have held. I mean, I guess, again, he's still here, but is he really alive? The Zeph follow-up, and look at that, the Osval overform is on the way.
Yes, tier 3 for
with
ZERG.
that huge gas bank. Oh, he's got more phalanxes out, so you just need to watch out. They do get splattered by phalanxes pretty badly. Okay, he's still here. Oh, he lives.
Oh, here come the Zeps.
Here comes the phalanxes more like.
No, that's splash damage. Oh,
okay, luckily
never
not that
mind.
many Masons actually get hit somehow.
Yes, that one begs to differ as he dies horribly.
Right, Ramsey's on the way, by the way. Ramsey's definitely an efficient unit against these Zeph floods.
Yes.
Again, he needs to start just spamming the Sentinels, dude, because clearly ZERG is intent on coming in by ground. That's a lot of Cataphracts, though. Well, 3 equals a lot, I guess, when it comes to Cataphracts. They are going to do the job. But what is he making in the meantime? A whole bunch of Vorvs. They'll actually be quite good because they'll be able to get closer and they'd slow them down. That'd be huge. And the Lyralists continue to be the unit of choice here. I don't think they're that good against Cataphracts, actually, because they will suffer from their armor a little bit, and they're low enough HP that the multi-attack will be effective against them.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, the minefield's starting to get laid again. Finally landing that 3rd base. Still hasn't been able to land the 12 o'clock because of that one Zeth blocking the path. And here comes the commit through the choke of the 3rd base. Completely barren. No Sentinels here. And only the 1 HP Phalanx left. He's got 12 health. As soon as he gets kissed for a single time. Yep, he's out. Kiss him goodbye. And we've got some Ramses out, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
I mean, they're doing work. They're cleaning up, but the Zoryu's just tanky enough here. It looks like with the Lyralists in the back, they do take a while to kill that Cataphract. Got some kills before he went down, but he is out of here, and I think so is Isigyro in this game. Just overwhelmed again by the Zerg macro. And look back at Crank's base, like how much he's morphing. So many Lyralists continuing to be made.
Yeah, tier 3 just finished.
Yeah, but he's not even using it. He's just shoveling in the Cosmos and Lyralists.
That's right.
The Cosmos and the Cosmos Plus.
Yes, that's right. Can I interest you in Quasilisk the sequel? Apparently, Krankendau says yes. He's going to make about 30 of them.
Oh my god, he just loves those units, dude. Oh, he cancels the Q on that mantle. Good job. He's got more to make in his main now.
Yeah, it's hanging on by a thread here. If those Cataphracts could turn into Penumbras, maybe he could do something, but...
No, then they just get blown up by their own shots, I think. The Vorpal core is getting close.
Yeah, fair enough.
If they could turn into Ions, that'd be another story.
Ah, there we go. Starting to get somewhere. You know, the change to the Aeons is going to be really interesting for...
I still haven't even seen it.
They, basically, it's a 1.5 second delay before they actually reclaim something, so...
Oh, okay, fair.
So, you know, it takes a little bit of time. It means that Vilgoricores and the like, the corpse consumption mechanics of the other races can help counteract it, so kind of increases that. But I don't think we're going to even need to see that. I mean, tier 3 stuff is on the way here for Krankendau. He's getting the Almakis Anter. He's getting the Axtoth Axis. GG Re. And, yeah, once again, Krankendau says, okay, we will not see the outcome of that game. I'm assuming it was a bit more one-sided. because we only get the best games from Krankendau when he submits, but that will be a 3-0 in favor of our ZERG boy. And while Isigyro eventually also played ZERG, maybe because of playing against Krankendau and being like, if you can't beat him, join him, he's no longer with us as of right now. I hope he returns to the fold because, come on, dude, this is epic. What do you think, Neblime? You think he's coming back?
Dude, it would be the greatest story ever if he shows up on like the eve of the underclass and just like comes in.
Yes, and
his group.
Yeah, and he comes in as an emergency substitute. And he figured that out, but...
Look, I wish for it, but I wish for a lot of things, you know. I don't know if we're going to see him.
That's all right. We'll see if we can satisfy Neblime's deepest wishes when we come back for tomorrow's cast, because there's daily casts on this channel, didn't you know? So subscribe, and we'll see you then. GG, boys.